Alright, so this is going to be another reading for Sagittarius. And Sagittarius, what I'm picking up for you today is that recently you may be in a period of moving towards a lot more joy and fulfillment and warmth in your life. As spring opens up and turns into summer, this could be a physical sense of warmth, but I'm also just getting on a deeper level. You could be feeling a lot happier, a lot more fulfilled, or maybe you just made certain changes to move towards warmth and fulfillment, and maybe you're already experiencing that, and maybe you just kind of know that you're on that sort of path towards that warmth and fulfillment. But whatever it is that you're heading towards, it does look like pretty much a change from things as you knew it in the past. And in your current energy, I see that you're pretty satisfied with how far you've come on your personal journey. But there's just a question of, okay, now that I have accomplished this and I've closed out whatever past cycle needed to be closed out, kind of what do I do now, and what is my path? And many of you could be kind of doubting the path that you're on, or wondering, what is meant for me here. The overall energy for the reading is the Knight of Pentacles, which is a pretty slow moving energy. So you could kind of feel like things are moving slowly for you, or just that like maybe things aren't materializing for you or manifesting for you as quickly as you would like. I think Sagittarius can often be comfortable with a faster pace, or with sudden change, or rolling with the punches and that kind of energy. And so it could be kind of uncomfortable for you to just kind of be stable and still and slow moving. But I'm hearing that for whatever Sagittarius is relating to this right now, this is actually a very important part of your life path, and just an important thing for your soul to experience, which is the experience of solidity and slowing down and being in your own energy without needing to be in the next place or the next experience, and to just experience life in the present moment. Because when I clarify the Knight of Pentacles, we get the Eight of Pentacles, the King of Swords, the Hanged Man, which is like talking about how there could be this urge for you to figure out, or to focus your mental energy on some type of project and kind of move your life ahead forward. You may be someone who in the past has been very career oriented, or just very much forward moving in terms of things that they're focusing on, or things that you're working on. And this presents a bit of a challenge for you, where your mental energy is asked to rest, or to shift, or to change into something else that kind of allows you to be happier and to feel your energy more. But for some of you, could be uncomfortable, because it feels like getting to that next phase in your life just may not be happening at this exact moment. Now, when I pulled the oracle cards, we got the burden, the dream, and the source. So you're a Sagittarius who could be very spiritual, especially if you're listening to tarot or you're consulting spiritual guidance. Obviously that's true, but I'm getting the sense that you are almost aware of the fact that you came into this incarnation with some type of soul contract or destiny, or certain things that maybe your soul has asked you to accomplish in this lifetime. But I almost see that knowledge kind of weighing down on you and burdening you, in the sense that then you feel like you have something to accomplish, and am I accomplishing it? And Spirit's really asking you to step a little bit away from that heavier, denser, work-oriented energy, and more into a much more spiritual, dreamy energy. For many of you, that may require like literal meditation. For others of you, it just requires like getting into that flow state, relaxing and doing things that bring out your creativity, that bring out your inner flow state, and just getting into that space and connecting with your energy from a more harmonious place of being in flow, right? Or letting your creativity lead the way, and by letting your creativity lead the way, really letting your life force lead the way. Because when we get in touch with our life force, with our creativity, we're getting in touch with the source within us. And so allow yourself to daydream, allow yourself to go slow. This may not be a time of heavy movement for you, or fast movement. And the fast movement that does come up for you looks like it really comes from within, when you start to kind of question, what am I doing here in this space, or how long is this going to go on? Is it okay that I'm kind of just standing still? And even though it may feel in the physical like you're standing still, there's actually quite a bit energetically that's happening for you, which is that you're in that juncture where a cycle is closing out and the next cycle is kind of beginning. But before you move along the wheel of that energy and it turns and turns and picks up velocity and picks up speed and has a rhythm to the turning and everything, you're actually in the very like slow sort of roll at the beginning of that wheel before it's picked up momentum and begins to, kiss the ground over and over again and speed forward. It's like you're not meant to be there yet. You're actually meant to fully honor the closing of this past cycle and kind of sit in the energy of the present moment. And really, whatever cycle you've been through and whatever cycle you're moving into and whatever lessons you're learning or whatever you're experiencing, ultimately it's all meant to connect you back to the source, which means to connect you back to the present moment. And so as much as you can be in the present and remain in the present, I can see you kind of, becoming a bit more comfortable with your path as it's meant to be for you. Now I'm going to clarify all these cards, but before I do, please like and subscribe to the channel if this reading is resonating for you. It really helps me connect with your energy so that I can manifest these messages, and in so doing you're really co-creating the messages with me, and so I really appreciate everyone who does that. And I always love bringing these messages to you, and it's very much just as much your energy as it is mine. And I also do offer personal readings. If you're interested, my email is in the description box below, and you can reach out to me there for personal readings. But for now, let's dive into the tarot in this reading. And let's take a look at the recent past. The cards reference this cycle that you closed out and the fact that you're moving forward. I definitely get the sense of this wheel turning with the World card here, which to me reminds me of a wheel. And with the Six of Swords, you kind of got that wheel moving by, creating the energy, or not creating the energy, but taking your energy and transmuting it yourself, manifesting something else, activating that energy yourself so that you can move forward. Let's take a look at the Six of Swords. Knight of Pentacles, Queen of Cups, Knight of Wands. For a while, it could have been a slow process in terms of how to reconnect with your own heart. But then once you did it, it was like, oh, this is so easy. This feels so good. And all of a sudden that energy sped up and you were like, let me go in that direction, right? And so for many of you, you may have been disconnected from your heart for a while, or you may just not have felt your heart showing up in your material circumstances. There could have been something where you felt like, I need to realign with my heart space, with my loving energy, with my joy, with my softness, with my vulnerability. And so once you recognize that, it's like you instantly like shifted your energy into that direction, which for many of you may have been a very different direction than the life you were going to experience beforehand. Like you were experiencing one thing that wasn't very heart-centered, and then as soon as you shifted into the energy of your heart, it's like you were kind of able to take off in that energy. But even though the energy is fast moving here, with the Temperance card and the Hangman just flying out as I was shuffling, it's as though in the physical world this was a very kind of slow healing process, or something that took place over a long period of time. And even though you kind of ran in the direction of your heart, for many of you, you could have actually kind of slowed down in the physical world, or maybe taken a vacation, or moved yourself into a more relaxed kind of setting so that you could heal, essentially. And you were like definitely orienting yourself towards a path of healing, which may have been, it's kind of like going to the spiritual hospital in a way. It's like all of a sudden everything pauses and you're resting and you're maybe taking some type of medication, and this may have been to kind of balance out from some type of connection, and you kind of realize I need to focus on my own energy specifically. And that's not even to say that this connection was negative or anything like that. For some of you, maybe it was, but really it was mostly just about connecting with yourself on a deeper level than maybe you ever had before. So then, why is the Three of Cups here? Ace of Cups, Two of Swords, the Eight of Pentacles. There may have been this feeling of like, I don't even know what's going to happen in my love life or what's going to happen with other people, but I know that I need to work on connecting to myself regardless. Or there may have been a feeling of I don't even know how to connect with myself, and so I have to go experience myself in a new way in order to do that. Let's take a look at the Sun. Six of Pentacles, Wheel of Fortune, the Lovers. So those are the same cards that came out a few moments ago, even though I did shuffle very heavily. Something shifted here within a connection that was close to you and important to you. This may have been a soul connection for some of you, or just a connection that you were giving to, possibly for a long time, or something like that, and it could have been bound up in the material world for you. And then you kind of changed your involvement in it to some extent, or you changed the way that you related to it, and with it, it like opened up a whole new level of truth, of clarity, and ultimately of happiness for you. So, it may not have been an easy change for you to make, but it almost comes through as being destined here with the Wheel of Fortune. Others of you may have entered into a connection that may have felt destined, and that is kind of what opened up this happiness for you, this lightness. But for most of you, I'm seeing that this is more, possibly a cycle that closed out. Let's take a look at the world in the current energy. The High Priestess, Ten of Pentacles, the Knight of Swords. It's almost like your higher self made the decision to close out this cycle, or as you close out this cycle, your higher self comes in a very comforting, solid sort of way. It's like you get way more in touch with your spirituality as soon as you close out this cycle, and your intuition kind of comes in saying this was the right choice for us, this was what we needed to do, and it comes crashing in. It's like this sense of inner, deeper knowledge that almost isn't consciously known. For many of you, it could be subconscious. What else can you tell me about the world and that High Priestess? Ten of Cups, Ten of Swords, Five of Swords. It's like you realize that all of a sudden, very suddenly, that something that was making you happy or was supposed to make you happy wasn't actually making you happier, that it needed to end. Or it's like you saw the truth about some type of foundation in your life with all these tens. It's like you had set something up, and maybe it was meant to be fulfilling, or you thought that if you had this career that this would be it and then you would be happier. You thought if you had this long marriage that you would end up happy in it, and then all of a sudden you kind of realized that you weren't seeing it clearly and that it wasn't working for you on a soul level, and that's when you realized it was over. And it's not even you needed to end it, although many of you may have. It's more that it had to come to an end or something like that. It's it was a little bit above you. There was a spiritual significance to this coming to a close. I'm seeing that, especially if this was a relationship for many of you, that this was almost destined to be this way. I don't know if I said that already. But whatever kind of happened in this situation, you may have catalyzed it or, pushed it to end, but ultimately it was going to end either way. And it was for the best, so that you could step into almost a whole new version of yourself. I'm hearing a whole new set of shoes, or a whole new set of clothes or something. It's stepping out of the skin that you thought you were in, that you thought was yours, and then like stepping into like a whole new skin. Interesting. Let's take a look at this Nine of Pentacles. That's you in the center of the deck, or in the reading. Many of you could have Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn in your chart. Maybe not, but Virgo and Capricorn energy is significant here. Three of Wands, Eight of Wands, Queen of Swords. It's like you're waiting for someone to tell you what to do. You're like, okay, now this cycle has closed out. It's ended. Maybe it needs to be done. Maybe it was destined. But like now, maybe you feel a little bit, not like you're flailing totally, but the part of you that likes to know what's next, and the part of you that likes to have security and stability and knowing like their place in the world and their place in life is a little bit like, okay, like what am I supposed to do with my energy? Like where am I supposed to take my energy, and can someone just tell me? And the part of you that needs to know comes through very logically, even though your energy has its own sense of direction. You're kind of waiting for some type of insight of like what you're supposed to do next. And it's interesting because I feel like you're in this part of your life where a lot of things that were destined to happen maybe already happened, and now it's opening up a stage for your free will and for you to really take your energy and move it in the direction that you want to move it in. And you know, life can be about destiny and can be about like the threads of the universe coming together and all of that stuff, but it can also just be about free will and having the human experience of taking your energy and transmuting it in whichever direction you want to transmute it into, and exploring and experiencing and, you know, going after new things. And like much of that really comes from us making our own decisions and just deciding, okay, I'm going to do this and go this way. But it's almost like you may not be used to following the flow of your own energy, so then you look for some type of logical reasoning around, well, it makes the most sense to do this thing, so that's what I'm going to do next. But the path of your energy and the path of your life is actually not meant to necessarily be logical or to make sense to anyone. It's supposed to be an experience. And I feel like you're kind of maybe starting to have that realization, or you're about to, because you're looking out and you're having to kind of grapple with, you know, what is next for me, and where does my energy want to flow. I'm hearing the world is your oyster. Three of Wands. Judgment. Seven of Cups. The world. Again, you're struggling a bit with deciding on one concrete path, but then there's like this illusion about thinking that you need to have one concrete path, when actually, you know, what would it be like to step into your inner child and, you know, finger paint one day, and then go fishing the next day, and then, you know, play in the dirt the next day, and then the next day go to the library and read books, and then, you know, the next day you're tired, so you take a nap, and it just kind of flows in that way. And you're like looking at all of those different options, and you're like, well, I need to choose one. I need to either become a fisherman, or I need to become a librarian, or, you know, I need to become an archaeologist. And it's like, no, like you don't. But it's almost like your perspective is such that you're like locked into this way of thinking of like, I need to take one path. And it's almost like Spirit's asking you here to evaluate if that mindset is really helping you, and if you really do need to only choose one path, because it looks like in the past you chose one or two paths and you really stuck with them and you really built them into something significant, and then ultimately you realized maybe that it wasn't fulfilling, or that it didn't speak to your heart, or that it was kind of a dead end or something like that, and then you were kind of left with wondering, okay, like, who am I outside of this thing, right? And Spirit's saying, you know, you're more than that. You're more than just one focus or one option. You as a human being get to experience as many things as you want in this lifetime, and that's sort of the gift of being alive. And even these sort of so-called negative or heavy or bad or whatever experiences that you want to call them, like, people go through really heavy things like going to prison, or you know, going through health problems, or being cheated on, or like these things that are really, really heavy and not pleasant at all, and they can, go on for years and be painful and all these things. Even those experiences are part of a greater whole of our life and a greater path that our soul is on, where we're meant to be experiencing as many things as possible so that our soul can have a range of experiences and ultimately grow and evolve in our future lives and our future experiences, right? And so don't sell yourself short, don't tell yourself you need to find the next thing, because really you are a very established energy in your own right. You have shown yourself that you are capable of building and sustaining, and now it's like you're off on a different path that's a little bit more flexible and a little bit more malleable and softer and more about the flow of your energy. And again, the advice here, I just keep seeing this Source Oracle card, is return to Source. Go within if you don't know what to do. The reason why it's important to go within when you don't know what to do is because when you tell yourself that you have a purpose, then you get all caught up in, am I meeting that purpose, right? Am I doing that one thing? And if you're not, you feel like a failure. But you're not a failure. You just told yourself you need to have this purpose, if that's making sense. But that's kind of self-imposed. No one is telling you need to have this purpose except for you ultimately. And maybe there are other people in your life who are telling you need to have a purpose. Like maybe your parents have given you that idea, or teachers that you've had, or therapists, or just our society in general, the media, the culture that we're around. It's very purpose-driven. And it could be very destabilizing to you to feel like maybe you don't have a purpose. But ultimately, you get to decide if you're going to buy into that ideology, right? And if you're going to, cultivate your sense of self-worth around this idea of having a purpose. And there's almost this message from Spirit here that you are more than your purpose. Whether or not you achieve one purpose or another, you are still worthy of life, you're still worthy of happiness, you're still worthy of beauty, you're still worthy of abundance, as just completely as you are as a human being. And I think of that quote of does a flower worry about if she's beautiful enough and if she's achieved anything in particular? Of course not. No, her purpose is just to be the flower and to just grow and experience and live until she doesn't anymore. And I want you to think about yourself as that flower that's just growing and experiencing. Don't ask yourself, am I beautiful enough? Have I achieved enough? Am I moving towards enough? Because ultimately your purpose is to be, and just by being, you bring Source into the world. No one else can bring your unique frequency into the world. No one else can the little bit. So I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent here, but bear with me. We are all parts of the whole, right? All of our fragments of souls are part of a larger soul entity, and that could be God, that could be the Source, the Creator, whatever you want to call it. But each one of us is like a fragment of that larger soul, and no one else has the piece of Source that you have. Only you have that. Only you have your life force, the actual energy that comes through your body, that comes through your blood, that comes through your ideas, that comes through your specific experience and your specific selfhood. Only you have that. And maybe your purpose is just to be, is to just nurture your life force. It's just to feed yourself. It's just to sleep when you feel tired. It's just to enjoy things when you feel happiness, and to just be excruciatingly sad and in pain when you are excruciatingly sad and in pain. And as much as you can kind of reconnect to that idea of your purpose, I think then you're going to start to feel more like you're in flow, because you're going to be in harmony with your own energy, and that flow will move you forward in tangible ways. And so try to be really conscious of the energy that is moving, and not so much the material world. You could be the most spiritual person in the world and meditating, and you could be enlightened and all this stuff, and you could be really struggling at work, and nothing could really have changed in your life in the past 20 years, but energetically you're changing and shifting, and you're you're growing and evolving in all these things, and it doesn't necessarily have to even be reflected in the rest of your material life per se. And that is, I think, the lesson that you're learning right now. Powerful messages and very deep today. Let's take a look and see if Spirit has any advice for you today. And let's get 3 cards from the universe. So Spirit's showing you the Lovers, so that's that soul connection, and then the 10 of Cups, that ultimate happiness that maybe you had, and then the Wheel of Fortune, so this shift. And I think that the advice here is to allow the shift to happen, and to understand that love comes back around in many forms, and happiness comes back around in many forms. And there's also something here about destiny and knowing that everything that's happened up until this point was a part of your soul's journey and is a part of your soul's journey. And you're just kind of at another point of that journey right now. So that's what I have for you, Sagittarius. I hope this helped. I hope it resonated, and I'll see you next time.